clicked on this video, chances are you're currently on a gap year or are considering taking one soon. Chances are you're probably thinking about all the wonderful places you want to travel to and all the things you want to see. Maybe you've even started planning or booked your first flight. My name's Leena and this is the exact situation I'm in now. I'm a third year psychology student and I've decided to take a second gap year before I go back and finish the rest of my study. Except even though I've been at home and saving for a good few months already, my first flight doesn't leave for another month and a half or so. I'm obviously extremely excited, but even if I could just pack everything up and leave tomorrow, I wouldn't, and that is because I think that this part of the gap year can be just as valuable before you go on your travels as the time that you spend away in all these new countries and new places. And I also think it's very important to not try to rush any point of our lives, because there's going to be parts about home that we miss while we're away. Your time to travel will come, I promise, but our time is just as valuable wherever we are in the world and whatever we're doing. I've been really trying to stay positive and, really make the most of the time that I have left at home, and I thought I'd share a few things that I'm doing and a few ideas on how you might be able to do the same. This one is obvious, of course, but I had to mention it, and people are going to be asking how you could afford your travels, and when they do ask, this is what you're going to say. Your future self is going to be so grateful that you picked up all those extra shifts and extra hours, so if you're already dedicating a period of time to be focusing on work, why not work hard? Bonus points if you're able to get work that is fairly consistent or challenges you in some way, or even aligns with what you're doing with your study goals or whatever other future career thoughts you might be having. I'm just working in hospitality at the moment, but I genuinely really love the team and the environment, and everyone is super supportive of what I want to be doing with traveling, so that is great. If you're planning on staying in a certain country for a longer period of time, or if there's somewhere that's really high on your bucket list, use this time to kind of familiarize yourself with the local language, even if it's just the very basics. Observing your brain pick up more and more of a language week by week is super rewarding and super cool to experience, and I think it'll really elevate your time away if you're able to progress to a point where you're able to actually communicate with new local people. I feel like it also almost brings a sense of safety where you're able to, ask for help when you need it and read directions and just be a little bit more aware of the environment you're around. I've been learning Spanish for a few months now, and while there's still a lot of gaps and I've still obviously got a very long way to go before I could be anywhere near fluent, it is really satisfying to be able to kind of understand bits and pieces of context from conversations, or see yourself improving and starting to kind of know what words mean what, and I just know that I'm going to keep improving as I keep practicing. I'd love to get to the point where I can read in Spanish and understand most of what I'm reading and be able to have proper conversations with people when I go over there. If you've ever been the person to tell yourself you're too busy to do a certain activity during a school or uni semester, you have no excuses now. Think about the things you would do if money didn't matter, or the things that really excite you that you don't always get a chance to be doing. I found that I'm really enjoying tapping into my creative hobbies lately. I feel like my brain just has that little bit more space to breathe, so ideas have, a little bit more room to kind of flow in and out. I've really been enjoying having more time to read and write and play music and go on long walks and, be filming and editing for YouTube again. And in saying that, if you've ever had even the slightest inkling to start a YouTube channel or start, editing videos, this is the perfect time to be doing it, because what do you have to lose right now? I don't know about you guys, but anytime I travel, I always end up walking over 20,000 steps a day, because there's always just so much to explore, and if your body's not really ready for that kind of jump in movement, you're going to burn yourself out pretty quickly. Consistent movement makes you feel so good and strong, and it's going to get you so ready for all the cities you're going to walk through and all the mountains you might be climbing while you're away. I try to go to a few Pilates classes a week at the moment, and a few longer walks, and if I'm lucky, I might get a surf or two in as well. I've tried to be a gym girly so many times, but I just never stick with it because I just don't love it, and that's okay. And the type of movement you do is not as important as the consistency that you put into it, so you may as well find a movement that you enjoy doing and focus on implementing that in your life more. I took my first gap year straight after high school, and I'm so glad I did, because I learned so much about who I was as a person, and it really solidified my decision to study psychology. There's so much pressure put on young people, especially people who have just graduated high school, to have their whole life figured out and to know exactly what they're doing in university and for work and all of that. And I'm here to tell you that it is so fine if you don't know what you're doing yet and you don't have that whole picture perfect vision for your life ahead of you just yet. I don't think anyone really truly does, and if they do, do, life is probably going to shake it up in some way, and things are going to change, and it's not going to be exactly as anyone envisioned. Think about what your intentions might be for taking a gap year, and if the main one is to kind of give yourself a little bit more time to figure out who you are and what you want to be doing, my advice would be to just say yes to any opportunity that presents itself that might excite you, or spark some curiosity, even if it's just a tiny bit. Try a bunch of new hobbies and jobs if they appeal to you. Read all the books that intrigue you and visit the places that seem to be calling your name, because I like to believe that there's a reason that all these opportunities are presenting themselves to you, and that always kind of tends to add up at the end, and you'll look back a few years from now and everything will kind of just make sense. To keep yourself motivated and excited to work and travel, it can be really fun to set small goals and kind of start planning your trip a little bit ahead of time. You don't want to plan your trip too rigidly, especially if you're backpacking, but you do want to kind of have a rough idea on where you're going and when you're going to go. It's also really good to pay for some things ahead of time, because that way they're technically free when you get there. What I'm realizing as I'm starting to plan my own trip more and more is that there's so many different opportunities out there, and so many different options for kind of budgets and lifestyles and just the way that you want to travel. You just have to do a little research and find countries and itineraries that would work best for the type of trip that you want to have. You don't have to consistently be doing something extravagant in your gap year to make it worthwhile. Sometimes rest can actually be the most beneficial thing we can do for ourselves, and I've really been learning to embrace that recently, especially when I've got those bigger work weeks that do leave me a bit tired. This might mean spending more nights in at home, taking more baths, more movie nights with yourself, and learning when to say no to plans that you're not really quite feeling up for. The time you have at home might just be the last little bit of quiet and calmness and privacy you have for a little while, especially if you're traveling in hostels, because you will be in a room with a bunch of other people, so why not embrace that? Lastly, just because you're saving, it doesn't mean you have to avoid spending money completely. Yes, you have to be a little bit stricter, but not enough to take away from the enjoyment of your life while you're at home. Don't treat this as an in-between, because you can still save money while going out for dinner every now and then, or having a night out, or going on little camping trips while you're at home as well. You don't need to put everything on hold just because you're saving up. And there's so many free or very inexpensive activities you can do as well, like walks or beach days, or art days, or anything like that you can do with your friends instead of going out and spending a lot of money on a meal every time. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope all your gap years bring you so much joy and learning and experience. If no one else has told you, I'm so proud of you for dedicating this time to yourself and to your own growth, and I'm sure it'll be so worth it. I will see you in another video next Thursday.